YouTube. So today I am home and I can't go anywhere because my immune system is very low. So I wanted to go ahead and film a video, and I promised you guys I would do a video regarding my PICC line. So just to give you a warning, this video is going to be talking about medical stuff / showing you my arm, which isn't that bad, but it might creep some people out. So I just wanted to give you a warning before you kept watching this video. So what is a PICC line? So a PICC line is I'm gonna get this right, Peripherally Inserted Central Catheter, which means it's on the outside of your skin, not something that's like tunneled underneath like what my port was that I had. The reason I had to get this was because I am getting chemo in the hospital, and it can go in your veins, but it's very dangerous. So they don't want to just stick an IV in your arm. They wanted something that's deeper. The PICC line that I have is in my left arm, and they had to do it in my left arm. They like to do it in your right arm normally, but they had to do it in my left arm because I used to have, or I had, a blood clot in this side from my port. So they didn't want to like trigger anything on this side. So the PICC line that I have basically goes from my arm here, which I'll show you. This sleeve keeps everything in place, and I'll show you what it looks like and why. So it goes from inside of my arm all the way like down here, dropping down to a central line or a central vein into my heart. So the medication goes directly to this vein, and the people who inserted it explained to me like those veins are the ones they have to use because blood is constantly regenerating or like washing away whatever they're putting in, so the chemo or whatever else you're getting constantly gets washed away. One thing that I learned in the time that I've had a PICC line is that people have PICC lines for many different reasons, not just because they have cancer. It can be that they cannot eat normally, they might have an infection that they need long-term antibiotics, their veins just aren't good. A lot of people have PICC lines, and PICC lines can stay in for a short term or a long term. I've seen some people that had like cancer in the UK that have had PICC lines for over a year. I can't imagine having it in for a whole year, and I'll tell you why, like what problems I've had with it so far, but let me show you first kind of what it looks like. So here's my arm. I'm going to take this off and I'll show you. So these tubes is the most annoying part of having a PICC line because they like dangle there if you don't have anything keeping them up. This is a double lumen, they call it, double lumen PICC line. So there's 2 access points, and I think this is the most that you can have on a PICC line. It goes into a vein on your arm. So I'm gonna show you. I don't know how good you can see it, but it goes right there. And normally there's a lot more dressing that they put over it, but I actually ended up being allergic to it, so I'm going to tell you about that. On Monday I went to, also by the way, I am going to tell you how they inserted it in this video, so that's going to be more towards after this story. So if that's what you're looking for, like the actual experience I went through, then you can fast forward. But I'm going to tell you the problems I've had with it so far, just in case you're curious or you're getting a PICC line. So I had it in the hospital. I had it for about a week, and then I came up to the hospital to get the dressing changed, and it was not like, they have to flush it with saline, and they can draw your blood from here. So that's the nice part. When you're in the hospital, they can draw your blood from here. They don't have to stick you all the time, but they have to flush it, and it tastes disgusting. So they were flushing it, and then one part of it wasn't really flushing, like one of them was, one of them wasn't, and then it was like blood was trapped in this line, and they didn't know why. Finally, they got it resolved, they changed the dressing, fine. I went on my way. Well, the way that the lady put these, there's like a little seat belt thing that keeps them in place underneath of this Band-Aid. So she placed it, sorry, so that the lines were like this, like on my arm, like dangling, but they were like to one side and clipped in, so I couldn't move it. And immediately my arm, like where the PICC line goes into your arm, was burning, like burning bad. It felt like, well, let me say, it wasn't burning bad at first. It was burning, but it wasn't like a little bit. It was like an irritation to me, like irritating. It was like, I told my daughter, it was like little kittens were scratching me inside my arm, and it was annoying me. So my mom and I were like looking around Dillard's that day, and the longer and longer I like moved my arm and stuff, I was like, okay, this is really burning me, and I didn't know why. Well, I live like 2 hours away each way from the hospital. So my mom's like, we need to go back and have them look at it because you don't want to go home and then it starts giving you more and more problems. So we went back up to the hospital and they looked at it, and my arm was getting like real red underneath of it, but not like totally terrible. So they thought it was like burning me because it was pulled to one side. So they ended up changing the dressing, and what part of the dressing was like this thing that goes on, and then there's like a sticky chloroquine, something like that, patch that kind of acts like a stitch to hold the PICC line in place. And I went home, and even on the way home it was still burning, but I thought maybe it'll get better. You know, they moved it, they checked it, they did everything. Like, going to sleep was so bad. I ended up taking Benadryl, Tylenol, and thinking like maybe it's an allergic reaction, I don't know. So I went to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, the burning was back. It was even worse. It felt like somebody had a match lit underneath my arm, and I couldn't take it anymore. So my husband and I decided to drive 2 hours again in the like early morning back to the hospital to see what they had to say about it. Well, at that point, like, I could see that because this like jelly patch they put on it is clear, I could see that underneath it was very red, and I could feel like there was a bump, like it was swollen. So long story short, I determined when we get there that I'm actually allergic to whatever they use to clean the area, and also that sticky patch all of a sudden, although it was fine in the hospital. So they changed it and it was better, but I went back home and it was still hurting me again. And I saw that the line, because there was no sticky patch on it, the line was like going in and out of my arm as I moved my arm, and that was not good. So finally what my husband did was he actually ended up putting something like this around my arm, so it puts pressure on it and it keeps it in one place. And this is what they did today when I went back to the doctor, because you have to have it flushed. I think it's once a week. Was it twice a week or once a week? I'm getting it flushed twice a week, but I think you only have to have it flushed once a week, and the dressing has to be changed every week. So I went back today and they did all of that, and it's fine. But at first they were telling me today, we think we might have to put a stitch in your arm to keep it from going in and out. I'm like, no, I'm not getting a stitch put in my arm, because guess what? I'm getting this taken out after the next chemo. So that's something that they might do if you are somebody like me who's allergic to that stuff and you need it for long term. They probably would put a small stitch in your arm, which I'm sure it would be fine, but for me, I just don't want any more needles than I already have. So that's the first part of this video. Second part of this video, I'm going to tell you what the experience was getting the PICC line placed, because I couldn't really find that many people on YouTube or wherever that actually said how the procedure was. It was all about medical people kind of talking about it. So here's how it really goes down. At my particular hospital, they can actually do it next to your bed, and I know that's not common. Most people have to go into like a sterile OR environment, because it has to be completely sterile when they do this, because this vein goes directly to your heart, so it's very susceptible to, if something like bacteria-wise got in it, you could really be in a lot of problems. So they come in my room, they're like with the full hats, gowns, everything, sterilized something. It took them at least like 30 to 40 minutes to just get it sterile enough to where they could do the procedure. So they have your arm out, and they use an ultrasound thing, so they can actually look directly in your arm and see which vein would be the best one to go for. So they get it and they mark it, and then they have this tube, like what you can see, like these tubes. This is exactly what it looks like when it goes in, like these purple tubes. Sorry, let me show you. That's what's inside of your body. It's like a thinner, well, I guess probably the same as this. It's the same thickness, but that's what's inside of your body. They actually measure exactly where it's gonna go. So they have like measuring tape, and they actually drew like a tattoo. It's off now, but they draw it around your arm. They measure it up to your chest. They measure it over here. They have measuring tape. There's 2 people, and they verify each other, making sure that's measured right, because they don't want to put too long of one and then these hang like all the way down your arm. So they did that. I was not given any sedation or any pain medicine for this. That's not something that they asked me. It's not something that they offered. I had like conscious sedation when I went for the port, because they're actually cutting you open. For this, they didn't offer any of that. So I was very scared, because I hate medical procedures, like ironically, but so they have my arm out. They kind of cover your face with the like draping stuff. They said if I didn't want my face partially covered that I could have worn a mask and they would like turn my head away, but I just didn't care because I wanted to pretend like I wasn't there. So they find the vein, they do all the measurements, and then they inject you with lidocaine, which is the numbing stuff. That hurts like a biatch because it's like directly in this like soft part of your arm that nobody touches and the sun doesn't see. Like, it was painful. But there was one guy, he had me squeeze his hand, and so like I felt like that's like helped me get through it. So I did that, and once they numbed my arm, he stopped like talking to me about what was going to happen. He told me the needle was going to come and all that, but then he didn't talk to me about what happened. So basically what they do is they, you know, numb your arm, make sure it's numb, and then put the PICC line in, and they start threading it down. And at this particular hospital, they have a little like sensor that they put on your chest, and it uses sound waves, is what they told me, to know where exactly it's going. So they're making sure like it's going down correctly. And once he got it in, they were like, I think I'm ready to disconnect. And they disconnected something, and it was like it dropped down, and the machine was like boop, and it was like green, and I guess it knew that it was right in the correct spot of the vein. It was crazy. So that was done. When they got it all the way in, he had to like, I think he had like some instrument that was pushing it in, because the worst part for me was the shot. And then when they were taking it out to like connect it to these like tubes, they like went and like pulled it out, and I didn't like the way that felt. It felt like a lot of pressure and a kind of weird feeling. So that was the worst part, along with the shot. But once I got it in, it wasn't very sore. It was sore like for 2 days, like, you know, if I moved my arm the wrong way, but it wasn't like terrible, unbearable pain. When I had the port put in, it was really hard for me to sleep or lay on my side, or I had to stay in the recliner basically and just like rest there. I couldn't do anything else. So the port was a lot more painful than the PICC line, but the port is much easier on your life once you have it in. The PICC line is so very annoying, and I'm glad I'm getting it taken out. So that is my long story explaining PICC lines and how I got it in, and I'm just glad that it's coming out very soon. I'm very scared about taking it out. They're supposedly just taking it out like an IV, but it's such a long like line, especially because mine goes all the way over here, that they have to like pull it out, and I'm just afraid like maybe it's grown in my body onto things. I don't know, but I'll let you know how it goes. Leave me a comment if you have any comments, questions about PICC lines. I will try to answer them for you. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in my next one.